Oh, is this because of Reddit? Is it because of TikTok? How did this whole viral thing start? Was it just somebody
Right.
Oh,
brought
there was a big community which we were unaware of. I mean, you got to understand, this has been going on since November 21, and
Wow.
we had no idea. And then through 22 and 23, it was gaining a lot of momentum, becoming viral, and then enough for Rolling Stone to do an article on it, which again we knew nothing about. Imagine all this going on and we don't know.
Oblivion to,
You know,
yeah.
and then when they found out it was us, April 28th, which is of this year, not too long ago, all of a sudden our phones, the social media, every platform started going crazy. Chris's son, my daughter, all contacted and said, "You guys are huge on TikTok." And said, "What are you talking about?" And we went there and saw all these people singing our song, all these YouTube videos, all these posts, and millions and millions and millions of views trying to find the song. And then our name got posted, and then it was crazy. And I looked at Chris and said, "I don't know, what do you want to do?" Because originally the song was licensed to an adult movie way back in the day when we were broke musicians, and we just was looking for money for our music. And the first guy, Call 92, I guess, found it on that, and he kind of went disappeared because of how he found it, and everybody was making fun of him. We owe Call 92 a big thank you.
When you talk about hearing that, the old Fostex and everything, and putting yourself back in that place and back in that apartment, you talk about growth, you talk about spiritual growth, you talk about mental growth, you talk about where you are now. When you pick up that guitar and you start to play, you start to noodle around a little bit. Do you find yourself transporting yourself back to that place, or do you find yourself in Philip now?
Oh, wow, it's a deep question.
And playing something different. Do you find
I find it's a great question. I find myself, it's actually
I could
making,
tell me recorded it the other day, the track, and I'm sitting here at the console. I have a whole Pro Tools system here, and I turn around, and I'm gonna let you know, so I just had to say this because you've never heard this. I turned around and it was him back then with the same amount of energy and the same kind of charismatic vibe. It's like it never changed.
it was,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm tearing up, to be honest, a bit, because it was a part of me that I did for a long time. And I moved on to writing films, directing, editing, cinematography, but I never lost that. And picking it up again, because I've already tracked. And there was a video on Instagram and on Facebook of me tracking Ulterior Motives, actually. Redoing the guitar, because we're redoing the song unless we can find the vocals, which we'll talk about in a bit. And I was transported completely back then. Just like I was 21, 22 years old again. And my whole body language changed. But to your deep question, I had the wisdom and the inner peace with it now.
Confidence.
Instead of the hungry desperation or ego,
confidence too.
that one had when they were 20s, like, look at me play. Now it was more like, I was born to do this. It's made full circle. I'm grateful for all those people for bringing me back into this element. So it made it even more powerful. And there was the California Raisins. And the California Raisins were doing the Motown Temptations vibe. And they hired musicians that sounded like them to do, that, Temptation stuff. Well, we had those California Raisins.
Those were our musicians.
We're our bass player.
Yeah.
And our drummer and saxophone player.
In fact, if you see that picture of the chap that's sitting on the piano, he was one of the Raisins. And then Kareem was a beautiful man. He was a great singer, and he helped produce and help.
But back then, it's that sincerity and honest that you did it with such conviction. Well, the kids are hearing that, and they're not hearing that nowadays.
We were pretty
music.
We were pretty high off all the hairspray we had back then.
Aquanet,
I mean, cans of it. I mean, I don't know if they still have it, but it was a white can with purple stripes on it. And we played the Troubadour, the Whiskey, the Rainbow in Hollywood back in the 80s.
We
And
got to open up for Motley Crue at the
Yeah.
Troubadour.
And
Oh,
the
wow.
first thing we came in was an ammo case full of hairspray. I'm not joking. And
I
we
had-
would just spray that and it would be glued.
I
you
had
know?
my Aquanet phase too, Chris.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Chris and I don't know if you knew this, we used to, when we were in LA, we used to live next door to Michael Jackson.
Oh, wow.
And when I was dating my first wife, I used to sneak over the fence and his security guard would see me there before we got married with my first wife. And we got to meet Michael and he heard these songs
Really?
and he loved them.
Yeah, we have pictures with him. Yeah.
You know, this is the 80s, exact
This
time.
is when he was doing Thriller and worked with Paul McCartney, the Doggone Girl is
He
Mine.
loved,
You know
Yeah.
that
he
one?
absolutely
Yeah.
loved Chris's voice.
Yeah.
Really?
And you know, if you've heard those tracks, they're really hot.
We were
Yeah.
produced by the guy that not the one that Phil mentioned earlier, but we originally were produced by the Gary Getzman,
Mhm.
beautiful guy, and he went on to become the executive producer of Silence of the Lambs, and he worked with Jonathan Demme.
Talking Heads.
God bless, rest in peace.
David
But he
Byrne.
produced the Talking Heads Stop Making Sense album, movie.
Yes. Yep.
And he did UB40 Red Wine, and he was producing LaToya Jackson at the time and a bunch of other people, and he heard us and he said, get these guys in, and he produced a lot of some of the tracks that we have right now. And they kind of they were really nice to work with, but it was a good time.
For the complete Booth Brothers interview, both audio and video, go to darknessradioshow.com. Thanks for watching.